Welcome back to Tide Pod on the YouTube home of Tide Illustrated. Jack Knowlton, Tony Sakalis, and I'm very excited, Tony, because it is finally a game preview show that we can do. We're going to have some good segments at the end that we're going to run weekly for some game predictions. Also have some SEC games we're going to pick. Not going to force everyone to listen to all of them. We'll probably do all of them when actual SEC play starts, but we're not going to listen. I'm not going to force you guys to listen to Tony and I discuss Ole Miss and Furman when we get to that part of the program. But
you should see my my Furman takes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Tony's got some. Tony loves the Paladins. Tony, what state is Furman located in?
South Carolina. You tried to trick me with that?
All right. Yeah, sorry. All right.
About my...
All right. Wow. Yeah, I like Furman's campus. Anyway, wow. I did not think we were talking about Furman this much. We've got Western Kentucky to talk about before that, Tony, and more specifically, what we've learned on the Alabama side heading into that game. The latest from practice, we talked to Kalen DeBoer, Kane Womack, Nick Sheridan, and a whole bunch of other assistants here in the last week. And I want to start with the two position battles we've got heading into the game. Neither offensive coordinator nor defensive coordinator really tipped their hat, Tony, when it comes to who's going to trot out there for the first couple snaps at cornerback and right tackle. We're obviously going to find that out one way or another. No depth chart released yet for Alabama either, so we don't know officially. What did we learn from both Coach Cap, Coach Sheridan on the offensive line with right tackle, and then Coach Womack as well with the cornerback there?
Yeah, strike against Kalen DeBoer. A rare strike against Kalen DeBoer.
No depth chart.
I wonder if that's, before we get started, I wonder if that's a thing. I'm starting to think about it in the transfer portal era. I wonder if, just shying away from the depth chart is going to be more popular among just not only Alabama, but just everybody, and just kind of like keeping that stuff in house and kind of trying to just kind of get away from that. Because, Kalen DeBoer has been pretty open with, the information that he's, leaked or like not leaked, but, just like provided. So it's kind of like weird to not get a depth chart. But regarding the positions that you asked, I don't think it's definite. Obviously that Alabama didn't set anything in stone, but I think we have a pretty good idea of both spots, right? You look at that right tackle spot, it's probably going to be Wilkin Formby. That's just that seems to be the vibe, at least as the starter. That seems to be the guy that's going to get the start. He started all preseason camp. He really started most of the spring at right tackle because Elijah Pritchard was at left tackle before Caden Proctor got back. So he's been the right tackle for the majority of the offseason. He's had a good camp, and I don't know. Kalen DeBoer talked about where it would be 6 offensive linemen. So you've got the 4 that are pretty much set in stone in Caden Proctor, Tyler Booker, Parker Brailsford, and Jaeden Roberts. And then I think the other 2 would be Wilkin Formby and Elijah Pritchett. I could see them rotating in and out, but I do think it's going to be Wilkin Formby. The question, though, is, Kalen talked about having 6, offensive linemen, 6 starting offensive linemen. I think one of the things you got to consider is, Jaeden Roberts is expected to play. He's probably expected to start, but how much is he going to play in a game against Western Kentucky, coming off of an injury? You don't want to risk him early in the season. So I think you could see a little bit of Gino Vandemark, not Vanderbilt transfer, the Michigan State transfer. So he's a guy that's going to be important for their depth as well. I don't necessarily think he's going to be a starter or somebody that would ever compete for a starting job if everyone's healthy, but he's like the first backup to all 3 interior guys. So I think you might see him a lot, whether it be in rotation or whether it be just filling in for guys when they get, an injury here and there. But I think as far as the right tackle position is concerned, I think it's Wilkin Formby, and I think Alabama will be pretty solid there. We really heard some good things about him. And then the cornerback position, it's a little bit more of a guess, but I think Deshaun Jones, when we were talking to Kane Womack, it kind of seemed like he mentioned Damani Jackson. I believe it was Kane Womack that mentioned Damani Jackson and Deshaun Jones kind of like by name, and then mentioned, there's going to be other people too. It was just like he didn't name it, but it just, if you kind of like read between the lines, I wouldn't be surprised if Deshaun Jones gets the start. I do think that battle is a lot closer maybe than the right tackle battle. I really expect Wilkin Formby to win the right tackle battle as of now. The cornerback battle, I think Xavier Brown, you have a really good game, or, you get under the bright lights and he just looks like a better option. I think you make that switch. Not saying that that's going to happen. I just think that that's a possibility. If that does happen, I think it's pretty close there. But yeah, those are your two big position battles. I think, you start looking at the wide receivers. Kalen DeBoer said Alabama had 5 to 7 receivers. That's kind of another interesting option. The way I look at that, when I wrote in my story, I put the magic number on both of those positions where both the offensive line and wide receiver were 6. I see it as you've got 4 starting caliber players at wide receiver. You've got Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, Jeremy Bernard, and Ryan Williams. And I think those are the guys that, I'm not sure if Alabama is going to roll out with a 4 receiver set as on its first snap. So will they get the start? But I think that's going to be your core 4 starting caliber guys. And I think you're going to have guys like Cole Adams and Emmanuel Henderson also play into that. I think if you were making a tier system for the wide receivers, that's tier number 2. And then tier number 3, I think, that's where you get to maybe 7 or possibly 8. I think I'd throw in Rico Scott and Caleb Oden, the 2 freshmen. Rico Scott's a guy that kind of caught fire late in camp. I think probably if you were asking Kalen DeBoer to name names, that's his 7th man that he's mentioning. But then Caleb Odom's, 6'5", brings a different element. I could see him being in a certain package, maybe just to utilize his size. I don't think he's ready to be an impact player right now, but I do think that maybe he could be a useful player depending on the situation.
I want to ask you, staying on the wide receivers for a second. We talked to Jamarcus Shepard just the other day, and he was asked if he could describe his room in one word, what would it be? And he said inconsistent right now. And, obviously it's a big group. You just named a bunch of them, kind of a big group of players with the different, kind of levels of experience at different times. But yeah, generally, you don't have a returning 1,000-yard receiver. You have Jeremy Bernard, expect to be a big part. He was wide receiver 3 on Washington last season. What'd you make of Shepard's comments? Should that be worrisome at all? Or what do you think of
that's the downside to this. I think the positive side is Alabama has so many guys that could be difference makers. And you've got, it's probably really hard to scheme against that because there's so many options and you can't just take one guy out of the game because it's like a hydra and you cut off one head and 3 more pop up. The bad thing about that is I'm not even sure Alabama knows what their go-to guy is going to be at any point. And I think there's times when you really need to make a play or you really need to have a drive. It's nice to have that established go-to guy, to get the ball to. I think Alabama's had that, whether it, was obviously Devontae Smith or Julio Jones or, at times it was Jalen Waddle or Jamison Williams, whatever it was. They had a guy that they just knew they could get the ball to. And, I think that's going to be important to develop. I don't think it's necessarily alarming this early in the season. But I think if you head into, obviously you head into the middle of the season, you're still calling this group inconsistent. Yeah, that's a little bit concerning. I think right now that comes with depth. I think that, people don't necessarily have their roles. I think there's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of, up and down. So I can see that. Obviously it's something that they want to fix. You want to have those established guys that you can count on every week. But I think that will sort itself out probably in the, the first month here.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to watch. Like you said, it's a weird glass half or half empty, half full maybe situation. However you want to kind of look at it with that group, so it'll be interesting. I mean, Shepard has said they've been running a lot in practice, maybe more than any other position group. So you can take that for what it's worth. On the injury front, you talked about Roberts, Coach Cap, the other day. He's grinding through it. He's a tough kid, working hard, making it happen. I trust he'll be fine come game day. So we're assuming he'll step out there and at least play a little bit or show that he's healthy, if nothing else, in game number 1. Anywhere else that fans should know about really injured? This team coming into the season pretty healthy.
Yeah, I think Kalen DeBoer was asked about that in the SEC teleconference. Just is that the only major injury? And he said yes, it is. So kind of we will. I was just talking to you about this before the podcast, but we will eventually, during SEC games, get to know that heading into the game, there'll be an injury report provided. SEC announced that today. I guess we're recording on Thursday. That'll be interesting to kind of see moving forward. But this week's injury report, if it was mandated, would be very small for Alabama, I think. Obviously, you have like Jalen Hale, who's going to be out for the season. Everyone knew that. And then Jaeden Roberts is probably, I guess, if you were going to designate him, to the NFL style of injury report, I guess you'd probably put him as probable. But the thing about Jaeden Roberts is I think it's just a matter of, how much is he going to play? I think he probably will play, and he'll probably get the start and everything. But we'll just have to see how much. It might come down to how much does Alabama need him? How much do they, do they, how close is the game? Are they able to score in their first 4 drives? Whatever. That's going to probably impact a lot of it as well.
Yeah, so a relatively small injury report, which I guess we'll rejoice because it is football after all, and there are bound to be, some that pop up throughout the course of the season. And like Tony said, we'll have that injury report, new thing that they're introducing in conference games for all sports. So that'll be nice. Basketball front as well. You get some pregame reports, at least when SEC play comes around, can know a little bit more ahead of time. Other things from practice, I think I want to touch on special teams. We got the chance, we've been talking to these assistants all fall in the first week, and I believe this is one of the first opportunities we got to talk to Jay Nunez, who is listed as a special teams analyst, but he's the main kind of person who's dealing with that unit. Special teams, Tony, might be probably is the best returning unit on the team, and maybe or at least considered by many to be maybe the best special teams unit in the country, with Jalen Hibbert, who of course got put on scholarship this week. That was pretty big news. Although apparently not to Alabama players, because many of them thought that he already was on scholarship. At least that's what Nealon said. You've got James Burnip coming back and Graham Nicholson in the Lou Groves Award winner replacing Will Reichard. All 3 nominated for their respective preseason awards. Side note, this is also where I learned what the award for the best long snapper in the country is called. Did not know that before. I had to look that up for Jalen Hibbert. But do you know it?
I don't know it, and I'm trying to remember the one because Alabama always makes a joke of it's kind of like a joke one, but there's also one for the best holder.
Oh, I didn't know there was one for the best holder.
It's like a joke. I feel like they nominated, I think, Tua for it one year or something like that. Maybe I forget who they nominated for. It was either Mac or Tua, but yeah. Or maybe it was one of the. Now I'm trying to think. Was it Bryce? It was one of the recent quarterbacks.
One of the younger quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Or recent. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who it was. That was.
There's all sorts of special teams awards, but yeah, all these guys very good. We know their kind of resumes already. But what did we learn? Tony, I guess from Jay Nunez kind of coming in from Oklahoma. It kind of seems like it's a good move, maybe even with a unit as talented as this one, to have kind of a dedicated guy overseeing that group.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits with the new rules in college football now, where, used to, you only could have so many on-field coaches, and those were the coaches that could instruct during practice. Now you have more people that can, kind of help out in practice. So you don't really have to waste. You don't have to have a guy that does special teams and tight ends, or special teams and outside linebackers. You can just have a special teams guru that knows how to work with the specialist, that, can organize things. And I think that's really important. I think you can still have a group effort, or maybe somebody else help when it comes to organizing kickoffs and organizing that kind of stuff. But when you talk about, working with punters and working with kickers, and you need a guy that kind of knows that language, and you can't just get a linebacking coach and say, okay, talk to the kickers. He's not going to know what he's doing. So I think that's really important when it comes to special teams. And, on top of that, it's probably the best trio of specialists Alabama's had. Maybe arguably last year as well. And then now you have on top of that a design coach for that. It's just it seems like that could be a real strength for Alabama. And those are positions that kind of get overlooked. I don't think they necessarily get overlooked at Alabama just because there's been, recent woes, maybe before your time, Jack, but it used to be a time when, Alabama was known for their special teams miscues. Lately, that hasn't been the case. So I think there's been a real big effort to kind of continue that trend and kind of alleviate some of the stress that is, keeps some of the older Crimson Tide fans up at night.
Yeah, I'll add to some of the things that, I kind of took away. I talked to Jay Nunez for about 5 minutes the other day, and asked him about each player. Was obviously happy that Jalen Hibbert was put on scholarship. We talked to Nealand about that as well. Talked to a couple other people. Again, they all thought he was already. He's a veteran kid, first team All-SEC player, but obviously a lot of those long snappers can be walk-on. So that was good news. The other really big thing that Nunez mentioned, we asked him about James Burnip, of course, the punter, Aussie guy. Also did not remember his height, and then stood next to him, not realize he's about 6'6", which is, he's got good height for a punter. But
you didn't remember his height, or
I didn't remember
Burnip
his height.
Remember. Oh, I was going to be like, if Burnip didn't remember.
I think Burnip knew how tall he was. That
was probably weird. I didn't know if it was like some kind of like metric thing where he was like trying to figure it out. Yeah.
I'm 3 crocodiles tall. All right, not to do that. Shout out Australia. But yeah, it was interesting talking to Jay Nunez, and DeBoer had said this after Alabama's second fall camp scrimmage, was coming into the spring, James Burnip really inconsistent. Nunez even called him overrated, which I thought was, just a pretty bold term, but it seems like Burnip shook that off really fast. DeBoer said by the end of spring camp, he was finding his groove again. And so all seems to be well there. And then Graham Nicholson, Nunez described him as pretty boring, which I think you probably want to hear as a kicker. Just kind of a guy who keeps his head down, doesn't have any unique routines for his kicks. I asked him if he does anything different or has any weird repetitive habits that kickers sometimes have. Just goes out there, kind of sees it, has benefited from learning to kick at Bryant-Denny. Nunez said he's kicked there about 15 times since coming to Alabama. So obviously it'll be different with fans in the stands, but seems like all is well on the special teams front from James.
Will Reichert was kind of a quote unquote boring guy when we talked to him. There wasn't anything that kind of stood out. He wasn't like a big talker. I think that's probably a great trait to have as a kicker. You can't be, I'm trying to think of like specialists. Obviously like Pat McAfee was a specialist who was, what did he do? He was a punter, right?
He was a punter.
Yeah. So, maybe it's different as a punter. I'm trying to think of like,
I have a name.
If you want like a fiery kicker, you kind of want a cool, even keeled kind of guy. I'm trying to think of like
the kickers. I have one.
Do you remember that guy?
I do remember. Yeah.
Time. Like the guy that would jump up and he like tore his ACL or something.
I remember Roberto Aguayo from Florida State too was a name like everyone.
Yeah,
he
got drafted. Yeah, he had some celebrations too.
Yep. It's always dangerous. He had the thicker kicker in the SEC last year.
Was he a personality?
He was a little bit on the field. He had some. He had some flair. He had some dances.
I want to say that now that I'm thinking about it, I think the Texas kicker. Dicker.
Bert Auburn, of course.
No. But I thought
right now
the guy before him, Dicker.
Cameron Dicker. Yes.
Yeah, I think he. I thought. Well, another tangent on this podcast, but I feel like I remember him doing something. But yeah, for the most part, I think kickers pretty even-headed, even-keeled kind of guys.
Yeah.
I
would agree.
The NFL too. It just kind of seems.
Yeah, it's all about. It's such a mental thing. It's so repetitive, and it's a thing that looks so easy to do on paper, but to go out and execute it a million times in practice, and then be able to stay focused to do it in the game. Alabama's got a guy that they can trust to do that. So, seems like kind of a new dawn for special teams. Based on what you said with their history, and now kind of having Nunez come in and sort of lead that group. But yeah, we had a bunch of special team storylines, and people were very happy for Nealand Hibbett being on scholarship. Before I have a Western Kentucky thing to ask you, Tony, but before we do that, we should talk some Jalen Milroe, because, you wrote a couple things about Jalen Milroe. He had told the media the other day, he described football as being fun under Kalen DeBoer. They kind of, I know, were riffing off each other well during DeBoer's first Hey Coach show, which was a big thing. I remember a joke was even made if Jalen Milroe hated a call that he got in the new helmet communication, that he could just pretend it doesn't work. That was my favorite highlight. But yeah, you wrote about football kind of being fun for him. And then you also wrote a feature story too, kind of about DeBoer coaching dual threat quarterbacks. And you looked back at someone he coached at, at his first stop. I want to, let you talk about that, because it was your story and it was really well done. Everyone should go read it. But what have we learned about Milroe first off in fall camp, with what we can expect, some of the jumps he's made, and then talk about, what you wrote about with DeBoer working with dual threat guys?
Before we get started, AI needs to recreate the Remember the Titans scene where you think football is fun. You know what scene I'm talking about. They need to do that with like Nick Saban and Jalen Milroe, because I think that would be that the internet needs that. So get on that, whoever knows how to do that. But no, about Jalen, it was he said all the things that you want to hear from him. He's kind of sounded like his typical quarterback speech, but he is having fun. It seems like he really gels well with Kalen DeBoer and with Nick Sheridan. There's a lot of trust that goes on there, and I think that there's a lot of trust and a lot of respect. And I think the biggest thing when you look at Jalen Milroe is just knowing what he has to do, and like it's not necessarily simple in terms of there's a lot of stuff he needs to know, but once he knows it, things are not that complicated once he gets to the line of scrimmage. It's more just once he can speak the language, and that's DeBoer talked about that last night on the coaches show, where he kind of quizzes them in between practices and Jalen has to respond back in the verbiage. I think that's once he gets that language down and he kind of is able to communicate and operate through the system, things are going to start clicking faster and faster. Jalen talked about playing fast, free, and I feel like there was 3 Fs.
I think it was fun.
No, was it fun?
I thought he said it was fast, free, and fun under DeBoer. That's what I remember.
That might be it. Yeah. Okay. That would have been obvious. I thought I was overthinking it then. But yeah, so fast, free, and fun. So it's just
you were overthinking it. What Milroe can't do. You were doing what he can't. You were doing what Milroe can't do.
Yeah. But no. And the other thing I wrote about Jalen Milroe is there's been a lot of when DeBoer first came in, I think there was a lot of concern over how he was going to fit. How Jalen Milroe is going to fit in this offense. When you look at Kalen DeBoer's previous or most recent success, you look at, obviously Michael Penix Jr., Jake Haener, both are in the NFL, both pocket passers, both kind of not what Jalen Milroe does at all. Michael Penix Jr. is an athletic quarterback. He can make plays. Nowhere near similar game to what Jalen Milroe does. They're just totally different passers. But, the idea that Jalen, just because of that, won't work in Kalen's offense, I think that's kind of really premature. And one of the things I was able to do was kind of take a look back in the past. Not many people know the name Lorenzo Brown, but Lorenzo Brown was a quarterback for Kalen DeBoer at Sioux Falls in 2008 and 2009. Went 29-0, won Player of the Year in 2009, won 2 national titles, and did so in a dual threat manner. He was a guy that ran for about, I think 700 and then 800 yards. And then, he passed for like 40 touchdowns his senior year. So, there's obviously ways that Kalen DeBoer can implement success in a dual threat fashion. I think with Kalen, it's always been just attacking defenses at their weakness and using his personnel. And, there's a lot of good stuff in that article just about how Kalen is able to kind of work with what he has and really just utilize his quarterbacks and get them in great positions to make plays. He sees things quickly during games, and I think he's just going to be able to execute that with Jalen Milroe. It's really just about putting the defense in a catch-22 situation. That's something that Kalen actually talked with me off to the side this week, and it's really just about if the defense is going to creep in to stop Milroe on the run, you've got a guy that has one of the best deep balls in college football. And if they have to respect that, that starts opening up some of the intermediate passing, but also, some of the zone reads, some of the quarterback draws. So I think that's, something where Kalen DeBoer can diagnose that and really kind of mix things up and keep defenses guessing. And I think we talked about it. Once Jalen gets things flowing, he can be a really dangerous guy. It's really hard to scheme against him if he's able to pass, consistently and get some of those, pre-snap recognitions down. If Jalen Milroe can walk up to the huddle with more confidence than he did last year and really see things in the defense and see, okay, well, all right, the defense is lining up this way. I've got to go, to this guy. He's probably going to be open. And if he's not, this guy's definitely going to be open, and it's a real quick 1-2 check. And in Kalen DeBoer's offense, that's pretty much a lot of times how it works. There's going to be times when you have to scan progressions, but there's also going to be times where, things are pretty much schemed out well. If you know what to hit, you're probably going to find it quickly. And I think that's something that we'll have to see from Jalen Milroe, but I think it's something he's probably going to improve on as the season goes on, and that could just make him so deadly. You start catching defenses guessing or defenses overcommitting, and I think he's going to hit for some big plays, whether it's on the ground or whether it's, through the air.
Yeah, I think, and everyone, again, should go read Tony's article and look back. He's got some good Lorenzo Brown stories, a good anecdote about kind of DeBoer as a person to helping his quarterback through a tough time at Sioux Falls. But yeah, I think that the major takeaway I took from that, DeBoer touched on it as well during Hey Coach the other night, was, he kind of says, listen, it's my offense suits the pieces that are put in front of me. And it kind of feels like Jalen Milroe could be an extremely dangerous piece for all the reasons you just said. I mean, it's that dual threat ability is super exciting where, if you tweak up exactly what the things you said with the intermediate throws and kind of the recognition and just get him comfortable, I mean, it almost feels like the possibilities could kind of be endless for him. And so
yeah, I think there's also, you got to look at it. He's not tearing up his playbook. Think of his playbook more as like a menu. That's what I said in my story. He's just ordering different parts of the menu. He's going from the sandwiches to the pastas, whatever, it's just the different section of the menu of whatever fits the occasion. Obviously Jalen's going to fit a different occasion or a different set of that playbook than Michael Penix is, but the plays are still there for them to run the Washington stuff. And a lot of the calls are the same. The language is pretty much the same. So, it's not they're not coming in and trying to run a triple option. They're not trying to come in and do something totally different. It's the same thing catered towards Jalen Milroe, and it's the same thing as if, Michael Penix was to go down and they had a different quarterback there, they probably would have started catering it to that quarterback, so it's not going to be as drastic as maybe some people might think, but I think there will be some noticeable things, and there'll be some wrinkles in there that Lorenzo Brown said is going to shock people. And I think it's for him it's exciting, right? Because he had success as a dual threat quarterback in this offense that everyone sees as a pocket passing offense. It's like, this is his flavor. He's going to get to see Kalen DeBoer, his old coach, kind of coach the way that he was on the field. Lorenzo Brown, I think, was 5'11", 190 in his playing days. And he jokes that, he would have loved to be 6'2", 220 like Jalen Milroe was and have that, blazing speed. I mean, Lorenzo was fast, but not quite as fast as Jalen Milroe. But at the same time, for their level, they're both very dynamic. They both made a lot of plays. And so you're going to get to see that. And Kalen DeBoer was able to utilize that at Sioux Falls. It's a different level. You also have a different talent in Jalen Milroe. And I think you're going to see it's going to be kind of a fun thing to watch to see how he's able to kind of really put Jalen in a position to make some really big plays.
Definitely. So again, everyone go check out Tony's feature. I think it's, I think he makes some good just comparisons in there. And it's nice, you can talk numbers all you want, but it's nice to have kind of a firsthand account be like, yeah, this is how the offense was ran under me. I'm a similar-ish player, albeit acknowledging the athletic trait differences with height and weight. But, this is how it was run under me. This is how it can be run with him at the helm. So I think it's a good, a good thing to look at just before game time. Let's talk a little Western Kentucky, Tony, before we get into pregame. And it would feel a little mean to have asked you to do any deep dives on their knowledge and not to overlook any opponent as the number one thing in sports. And certainly Alabama will be studied up. But there is one guy that you wrote about, and we're sticking on the quarterback track, who will be a familiar face to Alabama fans at quarterback for Western Kentucky. Their starter, TJ Finley, quite the athletic guy himself, a 6'7" quarterback. You don't see that a whole ton. He's played Alabama twice in those two games combined, 31 of 54, 281 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Refresh maybe people's memories. What will Alabama fans see when TJ Finley goes back to Bryant-Denny Stadium, faces the Crimson Tide for a third time, suiting up for a Hilltoppers team that, a couple coaches on this Alabama staff has some familiarity with, said, won't go down easy.
What did Kane Womack call him? Like a big son of a gun or something like that?
A big son of a gun. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, what, 6'5"?
He's 6'7".
6'7". Okay. So he's 6'7". He's pretty thick too. I don't really know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he's a pretty sturdy guy. He's probably hard to get down. You know, but he really hasn't had too much success against Alabama. I think Alabama fans, though, remember him from that Iron Bowl that went to, 4 overtimes, and John Mechie finally won it. But TJ Finley came, a play or two away from upsetting Alabama in one of the most what should have been one of the most, the biggest upsets. That Auburn team had no business beating that Alabama team. Yet, you had that Auburn magic, and it took a late comeback from Alabama, and then overtime, heroics to pull out the win there in Jordan Hare. But he's a guy that, can make the plays. He had a way better season at Texas State last year. We'll see how he's able to kind of like translate that into a bigger brand. Or in a bigger stage rather against Alabama again. But he's an experienced quarterback that's played in the SEC for LSU and Auburn. This will actually be his 3rd time playing against Alabama. I think it'll be his 4th game against Alabama. He didn't play in one of them. So, I mean, I think he actually has another year of eligibility. I think just I just think for the meme of it, he needs to go and transfer to, I don't know, LSU again, or no, LSU. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a team that Alabama will play next year. He needs to go to Oklahoma and then play Alabama again. In a different school, and just how many different schools can you play Alabama with? But I think he'll be tough. He's a guy that has got a strong arm. The thing that Kane Womack talked about is when he falls, he's going to fall forward for about 3 yards. He's hard to bring down in the backfield, and then on some draw plays or whatever, if they need to get tough yards, he's there. I don't think he's going to do anything to really scare Alabama. I don't think he's necessarily when you go into the season, I don't think TJ Finley was one of the people that Alabama was concerned about. But at the same time, he's a capable quarterback. He's an experienced quarterback, and that's a really pass happy offense, and so it'd be interesting to see kind of what he does that in that offense. And they're going to let it rip, and they're going to get the ball out fast, and that's just kind of what they do. So it'll be a test towards Alabama's secondary. You look at Damani Jackson, you look at Deshaun Jones or Xavier Brown. I mean, they're probably going to get tested early and often, and so this will be a good measuring stick to, we talked about those cornerback battles. I think this will be a good indication of where they're at, and maybe it'll help Alabama figure some stuff out.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a nice kind of veteran presence to face. And you mentioned Western Kentucky, they're not going to roll over. I mean, there's, Alabama's got 3 members of its staff who have spent time with the Hilltoppers, and Brian Ellis, Jamarcus Shepard, and Coach Cap, of course, as well, had been there. And I think, it's interesting.
Wait, no.
Did I say Coach Cap?
No, yeah, it's Nick Sheridan.
Nick Sheridan. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know what Coach Cap.
Yeah.
I got offensive line on my brain. Nick Sheridan, Brian Ellis, and Jamarcus Shepard. So 3 offensive assistants. Brian Ellis, especially, he was there, as recently in 2021, 2022. So Tyson Helton, the Hilltoppers coach, was Ellis considers him a really great mentor. So, they all had nothing but good things to say about Western Kentucky. Jamarcus Shepard, I mean, he talked about, being on those kinds of staffs and coming down to places like Tuscaloosa, and Western Kentucky goes into every game not thinking that they're going to lose. Ellis even brought up a couple of examples that they beat Arkansas at Vanderbilt, a couple of other teams, I think Illinois, all on the road. As Western Kentucky beat Kentucky a couple of times. Obviously, Alabama, a little bit of a higher level than that, but you can't ever underestimate a team kind of coming in and punching you in the mouth.
They've produced some talent on offense, so it's Patriots, but Bailey Zappi,
a legend. Right? Bailey Zappi was, I mean, he had some impressive numbers. I will give it to that. So, TJ Finley might be reviving his career if he gets the right mentorship with the Hilltoppers. But yeah, you can't expect a team to roll over no matter who they're playing. It's a team that Alabama will have to take seriously, but by all accounts, it seems like this group of coaches has. And with that, I think we should roll into our predictions for the game. So this is something we're going to do all season.
Let's go.
Tony and myself. We have 3 predictions. I've got one thing that's going to happen. This can be, a number of things. You might think, Alabama's going to force 2 turnovers. You might go Justice Haynes is going to score a touchdown. You can be as basic or as out there with it as you want for your takes. But you've got one thing that you're guaranteed. I might find the Charles Barkley, I guarantee in his voice. Maybe you shouldn't use an Auburn alum on a Bama podcast, but the clip. You guarantee this thing is going to happen. So Tony, I will ask you, what is one thing that is going to happen in Alabama against Western Kentucky?
I promise I won't always do this, but my most recent column, I predicted the entire season and a key moment from each game. So I think it's only that I use that
call back. Yeah, no,
I'm not gonna just read through.
Yeah, I'll put a cap on 3. You're allowed 3 more callbacks to that column.
I just feel like this has to be one of them. Right?
Okay.
I think strategically it would be good to use those callbacks early in the season because
probably
you know less about the team. So,
yeah, that's probably a good call.
My prediction, how it will be remembered, is that Ryan Williams will get on the end of a few deep balls, including his first of many touchdowns for the Crimson Tide. That's what I wrote in my column. I'll stick with it. It's happened pretty much in both scrimmages. I think that's probably going to be a trend that's going to happen again. And I think that the Bryant Denny faithful are going to go crazy over it, and probably we'll be writing a lot of Ryan Williams stuff Saturday night. But I think it's going to be a fun thing. And I think it's going to be exciting to see, some of these young guys and some of these debuts that are going to be out there. So I'll kind of I'll stick with my classic and stick with Ryan Williams. I think that'll be the fan favorite choice too.
Yeah, it certainly would be. I think, no better way to, 1, get yourself more comfortable at the college level, and 2, endear yourself to a fan base that has very large expectations for you, than getting on the end of a touchdown pass. My prediction, I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go from youth to experience for Alabama. I'm going to reward a player who's now been a permanent captain for 2 years. Malachi Moore will get an interception in this game. He will get on the end of one, be a deep coverage. I know he's kind of going to roam. He's playing that rover spot. He's going to, be in all sorts of different spots, but I think he gets in the right place at the right time.
He'll be tested. So it's not like they're playing a running team. So there'll be balls in the air. So
all right. The next one we're going to do each week. So win or loss, I think this is still a pretty good one to do because there's always players that look good even in losses. I've got who will win the day. That's going to be our next category where you pick one player coming out, win or loss, no matter the result, you think is just going to have a good game. It could be matchup based. It can just be vibes, whatever you think, win or loss, no matter the result of the game. Which player in this game, Tony, who do you think will win the day for Alabama or from Alabama?
Well, damn, am I allowed to do I have to pick Ryan Williams or do I have to pick a new person?
I guess you could tie both of them.
It seems like we could review. Look, I think that I wrote about him this week. Sometimes that's the kiss of death. But I think maybe Jalen Milroe. I'm intrigued. So I'll go on I'll put on the crimson color glasses and just say that he comes out and really impresses people and probably answers a few doubters. So I'll say it's not just Ryan Williams. That maybe that Alabama's passing game looks dynamic. Jalen Milroe makes some plays with his legs, and I'm not sure the stats will be there it's one of those things where if you're Jalen Milroe and you do really well early, how much are you going to play? But I think that when he's out there, I expect him to look pretty good. So I'll go. I'm going with some of the obviouses here, but
get him out of the way early. Yeah,
I'll go with Jalen Milroe.
All right, so Tony's got Jalen Milroe. I'm going to stick in the secondary, and this is where I think us as beat reporters, you have to be careful drinking the Kool-Aid of some things that coaches give you and you write about, and you're excited when you write about them, and then it kind of influences what you predict for games from your own perspective or what you're thinking. But I'm totally going to be influenced here, and I'm gonna call back on an article I wrote this week about Keon Sabb. My pick is Keon Sabb for this game, and I have a couple reasons for that. I think alongside Malachi Moore, he's been great. The two have just formed a really, really good chemistry this offseason. I really like what I've been hearing about him as like a leader and just being another kind of veteran guy. He was a national champion. This is the 3rd year in a row Alabama's added a national champion from a team. Played very well, by the way. Had 6 tackles in that game against Washington.
Yeah, a big part of that game.
Yeah, he was good in that game. The other reason I think Keon Sabb will win the day is he's going to be playing in front of his two brothers this weekend, Amari and Xavier Sabb, who are two recruits to watch for Alabama. Amari is in the class of 2026. He's just listed as an athlete. Xavier is 2027. He's a wide receiver. They are both coming to this game and will be in attendance watching their brother Keon in his Tide debut. And I think when you have that kind of family there, just creates a sort of opportunity for a good game. So maybe runs counter to Malachi Moore getting a pick. Maybe it would be considered that he wins the day. But I think as a newcomer, you want to impress, look good in your first game. I think Keon Sapp's going to do that.
This is actually Colin Hitchler with a Jack Knowlton mask on, right?
Yeah,
now.
Seriously. I really do. I'm starting to fall in love with these safeties. I think both those. I mean, Malachi Moore has been someone I know Alabama fans have known, but I really like Keon Sapp. I was looking at some numbers too that I think he's a really good player. I think he's going to be great for them this season. But there you go. All right. Last prediction we're going to do, and then we'll finish with some SEC picks. You know what we got to do. It's a score prediction. Predict the score of the game. Plain and simple. Tony, what will be the score of Saturday's game?
I am going to stick to my predictions, and maybe I'm going to stick to my predictions on all of these. And I'm just going to have to sell my preseason prediction into I kind of want to stick with my preseason. So I'm going to go 48-14 Alabama. That's pretty, I don't know what the line is, but I think that I'm pretty confident. I think Western Kentucky can maybe score a couple times, maybe catch, Alabama's got some inexperience on defense. Maybe they catch them out a few times, but I think Alabama's going to do its business on offense. And I don't think this one's going to be really close.
I also do not think it'll be very close. I actually have Alabama scoring a couple more points. I do agree with you. I think Western Kentucky gets on the board. I'm trying to find it. It went through Alabama's entire schedule. Let me go to game one. There we are. Alabama by 31.5 is the line. So
31.5. That is, so I'd be over. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have them covering. I also have them covering. I have them scoring even more points than that. I have 56-14 Alabama. I think Jalen Milroe is going to get comfortable. The other thing we wrote about in the quarterbacks recently is, DeBoer said they have 4 starting caliber guys. I think when Jalen Milroe, gets pulled when the score gets out of hand, I think Ty Simpson comes in, do some fun things. Maybe Austin Mack, we see him. I think they score 56 points.
I'm calling you out. If they're going to score 13 points and they're a passing team, how are they getting this 14 points and the two biggest players in the defense play in the secondary?
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. They'll both be on run plays.
Okay.
Long run plays
that don't involve the
they call Keon Sabb and Malachi Moore on a blitz, and Western Kentucky picks it up and just goes. It's not, they're out of it.
Gotcha.
That'll be what it is. I'm gonna keep what I had.
I think an easier way out of that would just been like 2 late touchdowns on the second team defense. But you do.
Yeah, I guess I could have said that. 2 late touchdowns to the second team defense. All right. That aside, there you go. There's our predictions. So we'll do those throughout the season. I'll maybe keep a little tracker. We can keep our records, or of what. Obviously, a couple of those are a little bit more subjective, but we can certainly keep the score predictions. If someone gets that right, I don't know, we'll figure out some sort of prize or something. Very excited for Alabama's first game. Obviously, this is also kind of the start of the SEC. We're recording this on Thursday, kind of evening here. The first couple SEC games are Thursday. Missouri plays Murray State, Arkansas against Arkansas Pine Bluff. Saturday, there's a whole bunch of games. We'll probably end up picking the whole SEC slate when the games all actually get good, when they start playing each other. For now, though, first couple weeks, we just picked 5 of the actual good games. I'll run through the whole SEC slate if people are curious. Temple plays Oklahoma. Chattanooga plays Tennessee. Colorado State plays Texas. Old Dominion plays South Carolina. Eastern Kentucky plays Mississippi State. Tony's Furman Paladins play Ole Miss. Alabama A&M plays Auburn, and Southern Miss plays Kentucky. We're not going to pick any of those games, but that's who everyone's playing in the SEC, if you were wondering. We do have 5 other games, though. First one, this is an unranked matchup, but I thought it was a little bit interesting. Virginia Tech in the ACC playing Vanderbilt. The Commodores are 14-point underdogs in this game.
Ooh. I still think I'm taking Virginia Tech in this one.
To cover. Yeah. And we're doing these. We're picking the spread, by the way.
Yeah,
that's why I've said those.
Taking cover. So
I actually think I'm also going to take Virginia Tech to cover. They're I've heard kind of a dark horse in the ACC this year. A weird sort of.
Like everyone's a dark horse in the ACC.
Right? Yeah. I guess that's Florida
State, right? I mean, like anyone's doing that now.
it's a weird year for the ACC. I think I'm also going to take Virginia Tech. All right, next one. We've got 4 other ranked matchups. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, going down to Aggie land to take on Texas A&M. This has the Aggies by 3 at home in this game.
Whoa. I was
DraftKings
expecting to like hit you with a shocker and saying that like I was going to take A&M even though that they were the underdog.
Yep.
Well,
DraftKings has a -3.
I'm still taking A&M.
No free ads.
Only 3 points. Yeah. I don't think it will be like a blowout for A&M, so I wasn't expecting to have to be weighted down by these 3 points. I actually kind of thought it'd be like Notre Dame by 1.5 or something. But okay. Yeah, no, I'm still taking I'll take the Aggies with the the cover.
I feel like we're doing the same song and dance we do every year with A&M where they get a lot of hype coming in, but this year it kind of feels a little different. I think they've got the new coach energy. I think Connor Weigman's really good. They have some interesting studs on defense. They lost Evan Stewart, but I think I agree with you. I think I might go A&M here. I don't know, Notre Dame. I do like Riley Leonard, their new quarterback, but I think I'm gonna agree with you. I think I'm gonna go A&M.
I actually see like that. I'm just overhyped.
They're at home. They're at home.
Talk about people that like
are
overhyped and that we're like consistently buying into this hype train that never lives up. Like Notre Dame. This is really like these schools are perfect for each other because they're always schools that we always hype up too early in the season. Texas too, but now Texas decided that they wanted to be good.
I just think I don't know. A&M at home, game days there feels like a good vibes game. But Notre Dame, I mean Notre Dame too is also. It's interesting with them with the playoff not being a conference.
If Notre Dame, if A&M loses this, it's not going to get any easier in the SEC. So if you're looking to have
a big litmus, it's a big litmus test game for sure.
Yeah.
Next one. This is kind of the one of the marquee or rivalries, I guess. A little bit. We've got Miami, number 19, Miami, at Florida. I believe this game is in Tampa or Orlando. I don't think it's in Gainesville, but
okay.
I think they're
on neutral side.
But it is Florida are 2.5 point underdogs.
Oh yes, eventually I'm going to take an underdog here, but it's Miami and the cover.
You got Miami?
Yeah, I think it's Miami to cover. I don't really like Florida.
I don't really like Florida either. I don't like Billy Napier. I'm a little up in the air on Graham Mertz. I thought he was good at times last year. Got hurt a little bit.
I was really hard on Graham Mertz, and he actually wasn't as bad last year. So I thought he was going to be the most mid quarterback, and he actually was pretty solid last year. So maybe maybe I'm sleeping. Just 2 points doesn't sound like a lot, though.
2.5,
yeah.
In Miami, Miami, we're doing this song and dance again with Cam Ward, where it's like I feel like I like the idea of Cam Ward, but I feel like it never actually lives up because he's always injured.
But he won't be injured week 1. So,
and actually, I was wrong. It is in Gainesville. If that changes your pick,
it doesn't.
Not a neutral site. Okay, I think I'm going to go Miami too. The big one, because we're going to do the Sunday game last. Clemson and number 1 Georgia in Atlanta. It is the Bulldogs -20. Does that influence maybe?
I thought maybe
Clemson to cover.
No, I thought like if you were going to hit me with a sneaky little 14 or 15, I would have picked Clemson. But wait. Sorry. I get 20 points for Clemson?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not good at this game, Jack. Yes, I'm taking Clemson. This will be my first upset.
Okay.
I don't think Georgia beats him by 20 points. Also, Georgia has this like bad habit of like playing with its food early in seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really think that they'll be in trouble, but 20 points is a lot. Yeah. Sorry. I was getting that mixed up in my head. Yeah. I see it being more of a, 13-point game or something like that. So give me Clemson, give me Dabo, not to win, but just
you're right. Just to make things make Georgia play. I think I agree with you. I don't love Georgia super early in games. I think they're probably the SEC favorites again this year. Like I like them overall. I think that Florida State loss is going to kind of jazz up Clemson too to play a little better because they're like, oh, the ACC is a little more up for grabs now. I think I like them to cover as well. I think it's like I could see this being a 17-point win for Georgia, and everyone comes away from it either being like, oh, Georgia's not as good, or Clemson maybe sneaky good in the ACC.
If you get sneaky good after losing by 17 points, what are we doing? But
Playing Georgia might
the
get
thing
you
is,
that.
like you got to think about it though. Like, what if Clemson beat Georgia? I mean, Georgia could be in a world of hurt if they lose this game. They're not going to, but man, they need to win this game because then they've got Alabama on the road, they've got Texas on the road, and they've got Ole Miss on the road. I mean, like, it is a tough schedule, and I think that might be even another one that they have on the road that's pretty tough. So, like, yeah, all their hard games are away from home, and it's difficult.
All right, last one, Sunday, number 23 USC and number 13, LSU. I believe this game is in Vegas, and it is the Tigers by 4. Is the line. Let me make sure.
Look, Lincoln Riley, scared of competition.
It is.
I can't give it to him. No Caleb Williams. Give me the Tigers to cover.
Yeah. Side betting note for any of you college football bettors out here. People really like taking Miller Moss Heisman odds right now, USC's quarterback, because they're really high. And if USC wins this game, they'll go way down because it's LSU's a ranked team. But I think I also like LSU in this. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'm a super big Lincoln Riley believer either. He's great with quarterbacks, but theoretically that defense is better. They got rid of their coordinator.
This could be
LSU lost
80 to 70 game if it's like last year. Like
if it was last year, I would be glued to my seat.
Yeah.
The talent on the screen on offense. Yeah.
If this was last year, I would say that there's a better chance of like LSU and USC's football teams putting up more points than LSU versus
the basketball game.
Yeah, against their basketball teams. Like it's to that level.
Am I going to agree with you on all of them? I'm not actually. I'm gonna flip one of them. I will take LSU by 4. I'm gonna go Notre Dame actually to beat A&M on the road. I think I'm gonna pick Notre Dame.
Yeah, I was kind of getting worried that we were picking all of them too.
Just to be different, I'll go Notre Dame on the road. There you go. There's 5 picks. We'll do 5 picks again next week too, because again, there are some good games, but there are also some just kind of stinkers that we didn't want to bore people debating over. So there you go. When next you hear us, Alabama will have a win or a loss on its column. Probably a win.
If it's a loss, maybe Tuscaloosa will be burned down, and you might not see us.
You might not see us. We might be lost in the shuffle. Yeah, that would be quite bad. But yeah, when next you hear from us, it will be after Alabama's first game of the season. Everyone going, enjoy it, have fun. Little side note: I'm new to this beat. This is my first ever game in Bryant-Denny Stadium, so I'm very excited. Me and DeBoer starting our Alabama careers at the same time.
In that order of importance.
Correct. Yes. I'm much more. Yeah, this is much more a priority for me. They're rolling out the red carpet. But yeah, looking forward to seeing.
You should be like, Kalen, this is also my first. I don't know if you want to ask me a question, but
yeah. Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any questions for me about what I thought about it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it'll be fun to watch a new coach on the sidelines for Alabama, and yeah, hope everyone enjoys the game. We will talk to you afterwards.